Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2K Sports Season Preview Show. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with my partner Clark Kellogg, and we're ready to give you your first taste of all the big names and top teams that'll define this season. We're looking ahead to what should be an amazing year in college basketball, so let's take a look at the preseason top 25 poll and see who starts the season at the top of the heap. Here are the Big Five, the top teams in the country as we begin the season. The Michigan Wolverines come in as the #1 ranked team, followed by Indiana, Dayton, San Francisco, and North Carolina. So, Clark, what's your initial impression of our top 5 teams?
Sometimes the top players in the nation and the best teams in the nation aren't necessarily together at the top of the poll. But going into this season, we have some of the absolute best players playing on the marquee teams. That's really exciting to me, Greg.
The Michigan Wolverines are projected as the favorites here in the early going. They bring back Indiana is in the #2 spot. Certainly, they'll get a big boost from the return of their leading scorer from a year ago.
That's a big advantage for
Dayton comes in as #3. They've got a whole crew of high school Mr. Basketballs on the San Francisco starts the year as the 4th-ranked team. For a mid-major team, that's a pretty nice ranking going into a season. North Carolina is the #5. Here's the next group of teams in our preseason top 25. What's your impression of that set of teams?
With such a long season ahead of us,
the Oregon Ducks, the Virginia Cap. How about this list?
This is a year, Greg, where I think a few of the teams on this end of the
Horned Frogs of TCU, the #20 team, could be one to watch. They're lucky to have a place in the poll at all with only one starter returning from last year's squad.
That's because the 4 players they have coming in are fantastic players in their own right. Most coaches would be thrilled to have those guys in their lineup, no matter how many games they started last year.
The Aggies of Texas A&M, the #24 team, are also, as usual, we have a lot of new coaching hires. The Michigan coach is one of the hires. The Oregon State coach. Also, we've come to the part of the show when we look at the top players in the nation, the Santa Claus. As for our next up, let's move. And finally, now let's move on to the second team All-Americans. Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel here with my partner, Clark Kellogg. Just ahead on College Hoops Tonight, brought to you by State Farm, the #1 auto insurer. We'll unveil our choices for the top 10 mid-major teams in the NCAA, as well as tell you where the top recruit in the nation is headed. But first, let's take a look at the best games of the past week in college basketball. Let's get started with what turned into an absolutely terrific matchup. North Carolina knocked off Rutgers.
Well, Greg, this game wasn't decided until that final buzzer sounded. A couple of different bounces one way or the other, and this could have been a totally different outcome. North Carolina really muscled up down low and was able to convert a lot of easy chances close to the basket. Whether it was the big men or the guards, they made the most of their opportunities. They established their inside presence from the start and were able to rely on getting their points down low throughout the game.
And next up, let's look back on another great contest from the past week. Miami of Ohio defeated Georgetown.
The Miami, Ohio Redhawks weren't fazed at all by the hostile crowd. In fact, they seemed to feed off being in the enemy's building and used it to their advantage. I love to see that in a team. That's a sign of a tough-minded squad. Wallace took care of business in this one. His 15 points led all scorers. Watching him basically put his teammates on his back and single-handedly carry them to the victory in a big game situation like this was stupendous.
Now it's time to reveal our list of the top 10 mid-major teams in college basketball. You're looking at the future Cinderellas of the NCAA tournament.
I just love talking about the non-power conference team. This is the kind of stuff that gets me fired up for March. A couple of these teams have the potential to be very dangerous in the tournament. No one more so than the team at the top of the list.
Fairfield is a team that I'm not sure should even be included on this list because the schedule they've played could have put them in the toughest conference in the country. When you're a mid-major team, yet play that kind of schedule and still have a decent record, that says an awful lot. There's news off the court as well as on at this time of the year as Welcome to the 2K Sports Studios. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with my partner Clark Kellogg. Coming up on College Hoops Tonight, brought to you by State Farm, the #1 auto insurer. We'll preview some of the biggest games coming up this week in the NCAA, as well as show you the best action from around the nation. But we begin with a special player who was an easy choice as our player of the week in college basketball.
Pritchard had one of the best weeks we've seen out of a big man in quite some time. He was sensational this week, not just compared to other centers, but to any other player in the country.
He gave an absolutely superb performance, Clark. He just got hotter and hotter as the week went on. His opponents threw a number of different looks at him, but he handled it all. I'm not sure there's a legitimate way to stop him right now, and we haven't even begun to talk about his work at the defensive end either. Now let's take a look ahead to the games that get top billing on the schedule in the days to come. I'm looking forward to this game just like everybody else. This matchup has the possibility of becoming quite a little rivalry because these teams match up so well against each other, and it's always a heated atmosphere when they're on the court together.
Florida State plays a brand of defense that should make the difference in this game. They are a tough team to score against. And if you don't squeeze the orange, they'll take it. I think they'll be in top form for this contest.
And there's another game on the agenda that's too juicy to ignore. This should be a terrific matchup. Both these teams are fighting to improve their position among the nation's elite teams, and they're going to have to go through each other to do it.
Cal would be my pick here. They're so strong on the inside that I believe they'll be just too tough to match up with. It will really surprise me if that talent discrepancy on the inside doesn't tell the tale of this game.
There was no shortage of excitement on the court in the past few days. Welcome to the 2K Sports Studios. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with my partner Clark Kellogg. Coming up on College Hoops Tonight, brought to you by State Farm, the #1 auto insurer. We'll preview some of the biggest games coming up this week in the NCAA, as well as show you the best action from around the nation. But we begin with a special player who was an easy choice as our player of the week in college basketball.
Smithson is a favorite.
We're all set to, but before we end, it's time to talk about the topic that has a lot of players and coaches holding their breath right now. The Michigan will on, and first up, our #7 seed is from the Big East, What a tremendous Welcome to the 2K Sports Studios. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with my partner Clark Kellogg. Coming up on the NCAA Tournament edition of College Hoops Tonight, brought to you by State Farm, the #1 auto insurer. We'll preview the marquee matchups of the Sweet 16, as well as show you some of the great action from the first two rounds. But we begin with the player who dominated the first week of the tournament.
Salzo is going to fill the spotlight on him next week at the Sweet 16 because his play in the first two games of the tournament was nothing short of spectacular.
I'd be shortchanging his performance if I put a finger on any one aspect of this young man's performance this week because he did so many things well. I'd have to say this is one of the great all-around performances of the year. There truly wasn't anything he could do this week at either end of the court. Now, let's turn our attention to a few of the huge battles upcoming this week in the Sweet 16. We're really getting into the meat of March Madness now. This will be a fantastic battle. This is shaping up to be a prototypical style versus style matchup. Great scorers on one side of the court, great defenders on the other. This is going to be a real showdown.
Northwestern has been one of the best teams to this point of the tournament in terms of playing with freedom. And what I mean by that is they tend to not play under pressure. And I think that's a credit to their coach, who's among the best in the game. I think they'll prevail because of that confidence and poise.
And how about another huge matchup from the third round? This should be a terrific matchup. Both these teams are fighting to improve their position among the nation's elite teams, and they're going to have to go through each other to do it.
Arizona plays a brand of defense that should make the difference in this game. They are a tough team to score against. And if you don't squeeze the orange, they'll take it. I think they'll be in top form for this contest.
As usual, the first weekend of March Madness had what are sure to be some of the most dramatic contests of the entire tournament. Our first game was an outstanding matchup from the first round. Arizona overpowered Cal State Fullerton.
Well, Greg, this game wasn't decided until that final buzzer sounded. A couple of different bounces one way or the other, and this could have been a totally different outcome. Rogers was the hero of this one with a terrific performance. His 15 points led the team. Watching him basically put his teammates on his back and single-handedly carry them to the victory in a big game situation like this was stupendous. This isn't a preseason tournament, Greg. This is the big dance. He stepped up in a way that few players can in this kind of spotlight. And for that, we should give him a big imaginary high five.
This next game was another superb March Madness battle. Georgia did away with South Carolina.
Sometimes you see a team come out flat in a first-round game, but that was not the case here. They looked fresh, and this seemed more like a mid-round game to me, Greg. Georgia was deadly from long range. Their three-point shooting made a huge difference. I don't know if they came into this game with a plan to attack from long range, but that's definitely the way it turned out. And when you keep knocking down threes again and again like they were, it just deflates the opponent.
That's our show, everyone. For all of us here at the 2K Sports Studios, thanks for watching. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel, joined at the anchor desk by my partner, Clark Kellogg. Next up on the NCAA Tournament edition of College Hoops Tonight, brought to you by State Farm, the #1 auto insurer.
Stockoper is dancing into the Final Four with better footwork than Fred Astaire. He is so fundamentally sound, Greg, and he showed it by playing the best 2 games of the week.
I'd be shortchanging his performance if I put a finger on any one aspect of this young man's performance this week, because he did so many things well. I'd have to say this is one of the great all-around performances of the year. There truly wasn't anything he didn't do this week at either end of the court. Clark, the past weekend provided some incredible drama, so let's take a look at some of the most exciting contests from the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. Our first game was the kind that makes March Madness special. Yes, we're talking about a big upset, and even the wisest of experts probably didn't have this result in their brackets. Alabama got by Arkansas.
We've seen a lot of upsets over the years in the tournament, and this ranks right up there with all of them. Arkansas just didn't look ready, Greg, and I don't care how inferior your opponent looks on paper. If you come out as flat as they did, especially in March, you're in trouble. Alabama played some absolutely stifling defense. They made the guys on the other side work for every basket, and you can see that reflected in the shooting percentage. They never let up on the defensive end. That really took the pressure off the offense and allowed them to dictate the tempo of the game. To me, that was the biggest factor.
Next up was another exceptional tournament contest. Northwestern got the better of Iowa.
Well, Greg, this game wasn't decided until that final buzzer sounded. A couple of different bounces one way or the other, and this could have been a totally different outcome. Thomas had the hot hand on the winning side. His 20 points led all scorers. Watching him basically put his teammates on his back and single-handedly carry them to the victory in a big game situation like this was stupendous. And for him to have a game like that on college basketball's grandest stage, the NCAA tournament, is simply phenomenal, Greg. What a performance.
That'll do it for us here in the studio. For my partner,